is a presentation of Fox Sports.
We are Fox Sports. We are Southwest.
Your Rangers move on from New York City in a pair of tough losses to Minneapolis for a holiday weekend series with the Twins. The Twins have struggled this season and would love for nothing more than to take down the team with the league's best record. Martin Perez was a big part of the Rangers' incredible June, and he hopes to get July off to a great start. From Target Field, the Rangers and the Twins meet next on Fox Sports Southwest. Texas Rangers baseball is presented by high-speed internet from AT&T. Well, the weather in the Twin Cities is absolutely spectacular, just like you would hope for the holiday weekend, 4th of July of 2016. Tonight, it's Game 1 of this holiday trio coming to you from Target Field. Welcome in, everyone, along with Tom Graves, Steve Busby. Glad you could join us tonight, this Friday night of Ranger baseball. Rangers trying to bounce back, and they have a secret weapon that's not so secret anymore. Ian Desmond, the June Player of the Month, again for the Rangers, going gangbusters, Tom.
He is buzzing. You know, when you win 51 games at this stage of the year, there's a lot of players who have contributed and a lot of players who have played well. But midway through the season, he is the Ranger MVP. He's been so consistent after the first week or 10 days of the season. Second straight month, he's been the Player of the Month. He hit .358, had 39 hits, second most in the American League. Reached base safely in 25 of 28 games. He's not one of those guys that's going to knock in 6 runs one day and then go cold for 4 or 5 days. He's been there every day for 2 months, making plays in the outfield, running the bases, and getting key hits. It's been a pleasure to watch him play, and hopefully he continues the second half the same way he's played in the first half.
Boy, the Rangers would love for nothing more than that to happen tonight. He, Adrian Beltre, and company getting set to take on the Minnesota Twins. It's the first of 3 over this holiday weekend. Tony Beasley, nice to see him back in the Ranger dugout again. We'll be back to Target Field right after this on Fox Sports Southwest. Texas Rangers baseball on Fox Sports Southwest is brought to you by your Texas Ford dealers. Visit your local Texas Ford dealer today during the Great American Sales Event and see why Ford is the best in Texas. By AT&T High-Speed Internet. Get a deal worth talking about. Get high-speed internet from AT&T. By Budweiser, not backing down since 1876. This Bud's for you. And by Southwest Airlines. Transparency, low fares, nothing to hide. Well, a great evening here. Hope you all are getting off to a great start on your holiday weekend. Before we get things started here at Target Field in Minneapolis, let's check in with Emily Jones.
Well, Buzz, Martin Perez gets the ball tonight for the Rangers in the opener of this three-game series against the Twins. Martin really coming into his own this season, feeling good physically. He says now the challenge is to conquer the mental aspect of the game.
More tough mentally now, because physical, I feel good, and I think I need to, go slow down on mental stuff, because sometimes I show to the umpires that they don't call the strike and they got mad. And when I need that, that kind of strike, they don't give it to me. So, but that's the process, and I'm still learning.
Still learning and looking to improve on that 7-4 record here tonight against the Twins. We will have the lineups and the first pitch coming up after a quick timeout here on Fox Sports Southwest.
Ball Club trying to get things back on the winning path here this evening at Target Field, taking on the Minnesota Twins. Tom's going to tell you about the Southwest Airlines Rangers order.
The Rangers order will start with Shin-Soo Choo, the right fielder. Ian Desmond, this month's Player of the Month. He was last month's Player of the Month. Nomar Mazara is third. Adrian Beltre will back cleanup. Prince Fielder is the DH, and Rougned Odor bats sixth. He'll play second. Elvis Andrus is batting seventh. Mitch Moreland will play first and bat eighth. And catching tonight is Bobby Wilson.
And that lineup will be facing the 33-year-old right-hander from the Dominican Republic, Irvin Santana. Santana has more starts against the Rangers in his career than against any other team, with the exception of the Seattle Mariners. Tonight, he'll have the same number as he has against Seattle. Fastball, slider, occasional curveball, and changeup. Rangers should have a pretty good idea, since this is his 31st start against Ranger ball clubs over the years, originally with the LA Angels, and now up here in Minnesota. Stop in Kansas City and also in Atlanta in between. 13-11 is his career record against the Rangers. That's the 5th most wins of any active pitcher against the Rangers. Bartolo Colon has 20. Other Twins defense this evening. Robbie Grossman's in left, Brian Buxton in center, and Max Kepler is in right. Bauer and Dozier on the right side of the infield. Nunez and Sano on the left side with Kurt Suzuki behind the plate. Now Shin-Soo Choo getting set to step in the box. Choo, of course, led off yesterday's ballgame with the home run, and unfortunately for the Rangers, that's all they were going to get offensively for the entire afternoon. First pitch tonight is a fastball in there from Ervin Santana. They call him Magic for obvious reasons up here. Ervin Johnson.
I got you.
Did you?
I got you.
I was explaining to myself,
first,
really.
At first, when you said it, I was thinking maybe he was proficient at like magic tricks, and I should have known that. Then I realized what you were talking about.
Oh, okay. Thought maybe that was an upper Midwest.
I think most people watching probably figured it out much quicker than I did. Like they figure most things out much quicker than I do.
2-1 the count. Shin-Soo, a 272 overall average. His home run yesterday, the 4th of this season. Also his second leadoff home run. Second leadoff home run in the last 6 days. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Choo was driven in 11. Rangers come in at 51-29. Still the best record in the American League, tied with the Chicago Cubs for the most wins in baseball. Pitch outside, and the count has gone full. So Choo trying to get aboard to start the Ranger first here tonight. Ian Desmond, the Rangers center fielder, is waiting in that on-deck circle. Santana with a payoff pitch. Low and inside, ball 4. Choo draws the leadoff walk.
Yeah, Buzz, yesterday we were talking about how the Yankees shifted players against Choo when he got 2 strikes. In that at bat, when Choo got to 2 strikes, the 2 infielders on the left side of the infield shifted over to the right side of the infield, and Santana threw him a fastball away. It was like they said, okay, let's play over here, throw him a fastball away and get an easy single to left field. Generally, if they're going to switch with 2 strikes, you would think they'd switch the other way, because he's less likely to try to pull the ball.
Yeah, Desmond fouls off that first pitch, nothing at 1. Well, there's still some stuff about the shifting and the analytics that go behind it that really kind of befuddles me.
Yeah. Well, all we ever say is they wouldn't be there if they didn't have data to support it.
That's right. As Tom told you, Ian Desmond, the June Player of the Month for the Rangers, 2nd straight month. He and Adrian Beltre have split the first 4 months between the 2 of them. Adrian Player of the Month in April and May, and Ian Desmond at .358 average when hitting second in the order. That goes back about 6 weeks now. High and tight to him, and the count is 1 ball and 1 strike. Desmond, .318 overall. He's in the midst of, for him, a drastic drought. He's 0 for 9. Desmond been a couple of months since he's had consecutive hitless games.
I think that's the thing that's made him so valuable this year is he doesn't go into slumps. He's been there doing something to help the ball club every single day. And even the days if he doesn't get a hit, he can make a play, make a throw, run the bases.
2 balls and a strike. Yeah, it's incredible. You know, and I'll tell you exactly when the last time when he had consecutive games where he went hitless. April the 11th, 12th, and 13th, when he had 3 consecutive games where he didn't get a hit. April. Now here we are in July.
Yeah, and that's when he was in his slowest part of the season.
Waited on that pitch from Santana that hung up a bit, but Ian fouls it off and evens the count at 2-2. Well, the Rangers 9-5 in this ballpark against Minnesota. That goes back to 2012. Overall, the Rangers still up among the leaders in the American League, 23-17 on the road. They are 2 wins short of the Cleveland Indians for the top spot. 2-2 pitch from Santana. Call strike 3. Looked like that cut fastball that came right in over the inside corner, the front door cutter. And Desmond caught looking for out number 1.
Let's take a look at it. The catcher, Suzuki, sets up on the inside, and the pitch barely touches the inside corner at the low part of the strike zone for basically a perfect pitch.
That's Bob Davidson, by the way, calling the balls and strikes tonight.
Yep, right where he was trying to throw that pitch.
Here's Nomar Mazara.
That one might have caused Ian to be a little bit more upset. You don't have a problem as much when that pitch is called a strike on the first strike. You just don't feel too good if that one's called a strike for strike 3.
Well, one thing about Bob Davidson, there are 2 things that he loves to call. The strike, he loves to hunt strikes to call, and he loves to call balks. Call him Bach and Bob Davidson. Veteran umpire, and he is one of the best. Mazara, a 287 average. That pitch just a little bit low. It's 1 ball and 1 strike. Nomar, 11 home runs, 35 driven in. And we've been talking the last couple of days. He's starting to get things squared back around. A 6-game hitting streak. As you see, a 286 average over those 6 games. Just outside, 2-1. Nomar, along with the average starting to creep back up, driving in runs. He has 5 RBI in his last 6 ball games. Santana will drive Chu back with a toss. Ervin Santana 2-7 this year, 4.64 ERA. Rangers have several hitters in the lineup that have enjoyed success against Santana, and Mazara is going to start a streak of his own. This is the first time he'd ever faced him, and he banged that ball into center field for a base hit. First and second with 1 out, as Nomar Mazara hits a rifle shot right back through the middle.
I think Nomar's the kind of hitter that welcomes that type of a pitch, a tailing fastball out over the plate, because he doesn't try to pull this ball. He just goes with it. That ball stayed up, and he was really able to get the bat on it. But a pitcher like Santana, who likes to sink the ball away to the left-hand hitters, wants them to try to pull the ball. And if he keeps it down and get a ground ball, that one was up and was really right in Nomar's wheelhouse, his ability to go the other way and hit a line drive.
2 on 1 out. Here's Adrian Beltre. Beltre, one of the Rangers that maybe not average-wise has enjoyed Santana, just a 250 career average. But how about those home runs? 5 home runs in the 60 at-bats that he's had against Ervin Santana. 2 balls, no strikes. Now Beltre, a 285 average with a dozen home runs. He is a couple behind Desmond, 3 behind Rougned Odor for the team leadership. But he brings in that 9-game hitting streak that's seen him drive in 10 runs in those 9 games. Also, that batting average up 350 or so. 2-1 on the foul ball. Twins able to win 2 out of 3 last year here against the Rangers. The Rangers here in the first inning had the right guy at the plate with runners in scoring position. Adrian Beltre, 5th in the American League. Pretty good slider there. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Seems like over the years Santana has either really been pretty good against the Rangers or he has been bordering on awful. There hasn't been very much in between. Line drive to right. Kepler able to make the catch. That ball stayed up for him. That's out number 2. No, Beltre a hard second out of the first inning. Now Prince Fielder will come up. And as Prince steps into the batter's box, our TXU Energy power player to watch. That man on your screen. Here's the numbers against Ervin Santana. 389 for Prince Fielder. 3 of his 7 hits against Santana have left the ballpark. And 7 runs driven in for Prince Fielder. Got a couple more out there that he could drive home. Chu at second, Mazara at first. Chopper foul outside the bag. 0-1. Well, Prince had his season best 11-game hitting streak come to an end yesterday. Still, over the last 12 ball games, he just hit 341. An RBI total now up to closer to respectability. Rangers at the end of tonight's game will have played half the schedule in 2016. 1 ball, 1 strike. This is game number 81. Jeff Banister's ball club. It's fairly easy to project things now. If you look at the win total, Rangers with a win tonight would have 52. That would project to 104 wins. 2 balls and a strike.
Santana's going to throw a lot of pitches in the first inning. That was number 23. Good hitters count for Prince.
Jew getting his lead from second. Mazara away from first. Fly ball hit well to left field. Moving back and toward the line, Robbie Grossman. And he makes the catch right on the edge of the warning track. Rangers get a walk and a base hit, but Strand 2. We played a half inning at Target Field. Rangers nothing, and the Twins coming up. To the top of the first. Now the Twins coming to bat. Tom's going to tell you about the batting order.
Eduardo Nunez having an excellent season, 7th in the league with a .319 batting average as the leadoff hitter. Veteran Joe Mauer is at first base. Miguel Sano, back from the disabled list, will play third. Brian Dozier is hot. He's batting cleanup and playing second. Trevor Plouffe is the DH. Robbie Grossman is in left. Max Kepler is in right field. Kurt Suzuki will catch him bat 8th, and batting 9th, the athletic center fielder Byron Buxton.
And the 25-year-old southpaw Martin Perez looking for his 7th consecutive victory tonight as he throws strike 1 to Eduardo Nunez. Martin, a team high now 17th start this evening, 7-4. That .344 ERA has been coming down pretty consistently over the last month. 0-2 after the foul ball to Nunez. Eduardo Nunez, one of the real bright spots for the Twins so far this year. A .319 average, 11 home runs, 32 RBI, and 18 stolen bases. So he's been a force at the top of that order. Anytime he gets on, he's taking the extra base at will. .347 on base percentage. And Martin Perez with the advantage in the count now at 0-2. Twins 25-53 under Paul Molitor. Molly's ball club been going back and forth with the Atlanta Braves for the bottom spot in baseball as far as the record is concerned. Right now the Twins a couple of games worse than the Atlanta Braves. The 2-2 pitch. Beltre in a short hop. Throws low and dug out by Mitch Moreland.
No problem. Saw Mark Teixeira make a couple of plays like that in the series against the Yankees. In fact, probably 3 or 4 just like that.
Now let's take a look at the Ranger defense. You saw part of it. It's brought to you tonight by the DeBronfels Convention and Visitors Bureau. Mazzara, Desmond, and Chu left, center, and right. You saw Moreland at first. He's joined by Rougned Odor on the right side. Elvis Andrus teams up with Adrian Beltre to man the left side, with Bobby Wilson catching tonight for Martin Perez. The one gone here is Joe Mauer. Mauer, 264 with 7 home runs and 26 driven in. Playing exclusively now at first base. Well, I shouldn't say exclusively. Sometimes he'll DH, but no longer back behind the plate. Mazzara, a long run toward the line, and he goes into a slide. Can't get the ball, and took a pretty good pounding from that wall, too. Foul ball makes it 0-2. Fortunately, that wall kind of angles out away from Mauer, so he wasn't running straight into it. He's running a little bit more parallel to it.
That's the only way you can stop yourself if you're going to go all out to try to catch that ball. You can't go in standing, or you're going to hit right above your knees and go flying into the seats.
Martin's next pitch, and a 2-hopper out to Rougned. 2 gone.
Well, that's a good sign. Talk about Martin as a ground ball pitcher. And he's got a couple of ground balls right off the bat.
Yep. 2 up, 2 ground balls, 2 outs. Miguel Sano just activated today from the disabled list. Big powerhouse of a man. Hitting just .235. He was on the disabled list for the better part of a month. Little check swing, excuse me, foul ball, 0-1. Sano missed 27 ball games. Had that hamstring strain in his left hamstring. Got in on his fist. Sano fights it off foul. So Martin Perez has gotten ahead of each of the first 3 hitters tonight in this first inning, 0-2. That is aggressively filling up the strike zone. One ball, 2 strikes. Sano last year breaking into the big league scene, and all he did was get the MVP award for the Twins. Also their rookie of the year. He's the only Twins rookie since Tony Oliva to win that. That's pretty good company. Tony Oliva, of course, the great outfielder for Minnesota. Won both those awards back in 1964. Another tapper foul, and the count remains a ball and 2 strikes. Sano last year with 18 home runs and just about 2/3 of a season. That was the 5th most among all rookies in baseball. You saw this guy hit a couple of bombs here, and he pulls that one foul. Martin with a new baseball, rubbing the shine off of that. 15th pitch of the inning coming up for the Ranger left-hander. 2-2. Martin Perez hasn't faced the Twins since 2012. It was his 2nd major league start. He faced them down in Arlington. It's just his 2nd career start. Got him swinging. Good pitch down and in, and Sano gone on strikes. A 1-2-3 inning for Perez. We'll go to the second inning. Rangers nothing and the Twins nothing on Fox Sports Southwest. Folks, we want to let you know that individual Hyundai Club tickets include food and beverage and one of the best views at Globe Life Park, all in the comfort of air conditioning. And tickets to the Hyundai Club are available for $50 each on Thursday, July 7th. Rangers take on these Minnesota Twins. To purchase your Hyundai Club tickets, visit TexasRangers.com or you can call 972-RANGERS. Rougned Odor leading off the Rangers' second inning, chops that pitch foul. The count moves to no balls and 2 strikes. Odor, Andrus, and Moreland, the first 3 to face Ervin Santana here in the second. Rougned a .267 average. See, he has the team high water mark with those 15 home runs and 39 driven in. A ball and 2 strikes. Odor, 3 for 17, and then just completed a 4-game swing through New York. He had a 7-game hitting streak going into yesterday's ball game, but took an 0 for 4. Goes after this and pops it up, shallow left field. Nunez going out, being called off by Robbie Grossman, the left fielder. 1 gone.
Santana's coming off a couple of good starts. His last 2 starts have been against the Yankees. Gave up 3 earned runs in 12 innings against the Yankees. Had a win and a no decision. Among active pitchers, he's in the top 10 with innings pitched. Rangers have seen him a lot over the years, having pitched with the Angels. And I think you called it on him, Buzz. You might catch him with bad stuff and just kill him. And if you catch him when his slider's working, he's locating his fastball, then he can tune up a gem, too.
Yeah.
He's been a good pitcher.
Here's Elvis. Ball 1. Yeah, I can remember him throwing a couple of shutouts in the past against the Rangers where he looked almost unhittable.
Yeah. Yeah, working fast and
yeah,
throwing that sinker and slider.
Elvis rips that high off-speed pitch foul.
A couple of years ago in 2013, he threw 211 innings with Kansas City. Had a .324 ERA. 2014 went to the Braves. Had a solid year, 14-10. Last year with the Twins. Only pitched for half a year. He was suspended for the first 80 games of the season.
Yeah, how would you like that? He was a big free agent signee by the Twins in the offseason.
Suspended under the drug policy.
Yeah, and he gets suspended for the first half of the year.
Yeah, that would not be a big thrill if I was the general manager.
Sharp line drive and right at Dozier, the second baseman, 2 gone. Yeah, that would have, I would imagine that would have ownership questioning the allotment of funds for
for that player.
Well, at least they didn't have to pay him for half the
Yeah,
year.
yeah.
Now 2 up, 2 away. Now Mitch Moreland steps in.
Yeah, whatever he was taking last year must have been something that made him slimmer. Because he's never bulked up.
1 ball, no strikes. Well, maybe he got his money back. Didn't work.
I never saw any quotes from him after that. I'm sure he commented on it, but I never saw any quotes. But if he's like most of the other guys, he probably said, I don't have the slightest idea how that got into my test.
Yeah, surprise, surprise, surprise. Moreland 228. The
When I
average.
took it, they told me it would never show up. I don't know how it got in there.
Well, if you read between the lines, that's pretty much what guys are saying. It's not supposed to be detectable. How about going back to the last game that Mitch had against these Twins, August 13th of last year? 4 for 4, a home run and 4 driven in. Two balls, 2 strikes. Mitch has had good luck against Santana. He's 8 for 25. That's a 320 mark. Couple of home runs in there and 7 RBI. Santana's 2-2. Pulled sharply on 1 hop. And Hauer picks it off. Goes to the bag, and that'll do it. So 3 up, 3 down. Rangers gone in order. We played an inning and a half in Minneapolis. Rangers nothing, Twins nothing on Fox Sports Southwest. Texas Rangers baseball on Fox Sports Southwest is brought to you by your Texas Ford dealers. Visit your local Texas Ford dealer today during the Great American Sales Event and see why Ford is the best in Texas. Well, Martin Perez back out to the hill. He'll work the middle third of the Twins order. Brian Dozier, Trevor Plouffe, and Robbie Grossman. Dozier, the number 4 hitter. He hits a sky-high pop-up in foul ground. Beltre and Elvis Andrus over there and doing their tag team match. Elvis behind Adrian, took care of it. 1 out.
Yeah, when you're watching it, if you're just watching the 2 players, you don't have the slightest idea who's going to catch it. Now, we can see where the ball is, so we've got a little bit of an idea, but when the camera pans down there and looks at the players, they both look like they're going to catch the ball.
Yeah, unfortunately, those 2 know who's going to catch it. But that's what's important. No, 1 gone. Here's Trevor Plouffe.
right-handed hitting DH. Takes ball one. I want to pass along a special hello. Peg Imhoff, who is the nice lady that for years and years has taken care of the visiting broadcast crew and all the media up here and at the ballpark, whether it be the Metrodome or Target Field. She wanted to send her very best along to her family, daughter Janice Shepard and their crew. They live down in Little Elm. Also wanted us to mention that first great-grandson, and Peg is, boy, she's busting her buttons. She's so proud about this one. Named Ethan Shepard. He was born on April 3rd, 2016. So Janice and folks down there, just know that Peg is thinking about y'all. Can't wait to see you again here soon. Two up, Robbie Grossman, switch hitting outfielder, batting at .269. Grossman, a recent addition to the Twins. He's played very well. Grossman started the season at AAA with the Cleveland Indians, and he had an out in his contract. He accepted it and took a spot with the Twins, got called up, and he ground out here to make it a very quick and tidy 1-2-3 second. No, 6 up, 6 down for Martin Perez against the Twins. 2 in the books. No score from Minneapolis. Crowd here, the first evening of this holiday weekend, 4th of July. I hope all of you have good plans and enjoy yourselves this weekend. Be safe, enjoy the 4th of July, and don't forget to take a moment to think about all the men and women in our armed forces serving in the United States and around the world who make all this possible. They make the sacrifice so that we might have holidays like this. Bobby Wilson, the number 9 man, leading things off for the Rangers, and it'll be back up to the top of the order for Chu and Desmond. Bobby Wilson, .258 as a Ranger. Takes a little bit outside. 2-1. Bobby in the midst of a little downturn offensively. Just 2 for his last 21. That covers 8 ball games. But remember when he and Brian Holiday filled such a critical need after Robinson Chirinos was hurt. Well, they both got off to a terrific start offensively and carried it through for about a month and a half, 2 months. Just exactly what the Rangers needed. Santana's 2-2.
Yeah, one thing that's a little bit more difficult for the catchers is to get into any kind of a groove, because there's 3 catchers and they're all quality guys, and Manny's trying to get them each as much time as he can, but with 3 it's tough. I think almost any player would say the more they play, the more comfortable they feel. None of the catchers would ever complain about that because they're team guys and they understand the other guys are deserving of playing time too. But tough to get into a hot streak if you're not playing all the time.
And the payoff pitch to Wilson. Bobby fights it off foul. Yeah, you're right. And I would think catching such an involved position anyway, and not only offensively, but you got to worry about handling the pitching staff and get into the rhythm of calling a game and things like that. So they've got a lot on their minds besides just trying to battle a slider.
Yeah, and all three of them will say that's their main job, is to study the other team, know the scouting report, and work with the pitcher.
Broken bat looper out towards short. And Sano, the third baseman, cuts it off. One gone. Let's take a look at our Coors Light Cold Hard Fact for this evening. Paul Molitor, right there in your picture, the Twin skipper, one of 4 players in Major League history with 3,000 or more hits, 500 or more stolen bases, and a career average over 300. The other ones? How about Ty Cobb, Eddie Collins, and Honus Wagner?
Wow.
Now that is select company. Paul Molitor, one of the
all-time
greats.
Fame.
Yeah, should be, right?
Yep.
He's one of the all-time greats. A hit machine. Chu drew a walk his first time up there. Fights that pitch off and evens the count in a ball and a strike. Shin-Soo 5 out of 16 against Santana in previous matchups. That's a .313 mark. Right-hander with a 1-1 pitch. Fastball to the inside corner.
They were talking about Santana can be tough when he's locating his pitches, and early in this game it looks like he is locating his pitches pretty well. Generally gives up a lot of home runs when he doesn't locate his pitches very well.
There's that slider just off the inside corner. 2 balls, 2 strikes. You might have seen Miguel Sano, the third baseman, just before that pitch, go from his third base spot over on the first base side of second. That's the Twins shift with a 2-strike count on Chu. Foul down. See all kinds of variations now. Different teams, and Twins, for the most part, don't shift all the time like some other teams we've seen lately do.
Yeah, they're the first team that I've noticed shift to pull with 2 strikes.
Paul Molitor, a slick fielding infielder at his time, probably has his own thoughts about that go into making up the defensive alignments. Another 2-2 to Chu. Full count. Shin-Soo trying to get aboard with 1 out. Ian Desmond, Ranger number 2 hitter, is in that on-deck circle. Now the payoff pitch on the way. Try it again. A good battle here between Chu and Santana. There's a spray chart for Shin-Soo Choo, and again, it shows you a lot of pulls on the infield and the outfield pretty much straight away. But the change with 2 strikes is almost pitcher centric. Depends on who's on the mound as to whether you will get that. And there's that fastball spotted on the inside corner, and Chu caught looking. 2 gone. And before Ian Desmond steps in, we're going to send it back to Dana Larson, who has a Chevy game break for us. All right, Dana, thank you very much.
Yeah, Darwin Barney was the second position player to pitch. Ryan Goins pitched in the 18th inning, gave up a couple of hits and a walk, pitched out of a bases loaded jam. I don't know who would have pitched after Darwin Barney.
Goins is going to be all over Barney, though, for giving up the run. So You let us down.
Barney was throwing pretty well.
Yeah.
He's probably throwing too hard though, because he was throwing 86, which is right in the hitter's wheelhouse. If he took a little off and threw 79 or 81, he might have been throwing it a little bit too slow for Santana to hit that home run.
Mazara takes a strike. That's after Ian Desmond snapped an 0 for 10 with a solid base hit to center.
So Cleveland prolongs their streak. They win 14 in a row. They use tomorrow's starter, Trevor Bauer, in today's game. So they'll have to come up with another starter to win their 15th in a row.
I don't know. Now, Bauer's the guy that throws long toss from 600 feet or whatever it is and really touts the physical conditioning. And he may figure he can go out and start again tomorrow like he's supposed to.
Yeah, he might figure that, but I don't think Terry Francona is going to let him.
Probably not. Little jam shot right back to Santana, and that'll do it for the Rangers. No runs a hit, they leave one. And after 2.5, Rangers nothing, Twins nothing on Fox Sports Southwest. Baseball's biggest summer event. Don't miss baseball's biggest stars at the 87th All-Star Game, presented by MasterCard, coming up on July 12th on Fox. Coverage begins at 6:30 p.m. Central. Now Max Kepler starting off the third inning, and he takes a knee-high strike from Martin Perez. Martin Perez has been living right at the bottom of that strike zone. Max Kepler, a .245 average. And another hitter that Perez jumps out in front of. No balls, 2 strikes.
Yeah, Kepler's a pretty interesting guy. The Twins signed him from Germany. He grew up in Germany. His parents were ballerinas. He speaks 3 languages, German, English, and Polish. I think his mother is Polish. He played all sorts of different sports. Soccer, swimming, you name it. And the Twins really like the guy. That's a good tailing fastball.
Sure
right
was.
there. They really like him. They think he's getting bigger, stronger, and can develop into a force as an outfielder for him. That's pretty good when your scouting, worldwide scouting staff spreads all the way into Germany.
Yeah.
I don't know how much of my resources I would expend trying to find players there, especially after him. There can't be too many more over there.
Now Martin Perez with his second strikeout. 1 gone now. Here's Kurt Suzuki. Suzuki has been swinging a hot bat. Fouls off that first pitch. Veteran catcher. .279 average overall. But the last month he's hit .375. Also has been driving in some runs. 14 RBI in his last 16 games. Pulls that one foul. No balls, 2 strikes. Suzuki, originally a member of the Oakland A's, went to Washington for a year and a half. Came over to the Twins.
Buzz, I should correct something I said. I said that both of Max Kepler's parents were ballerinas.
They were in the ballet.
They were both professional ballet dancers. Might be a better way of saying that. It was brought to my attention.
Now we needed to clear that up.
In any event, if athletic ability is passed down from a father and a mother, I would think he had a pretty strong athletic ability.
Well, I was reading that
parents were ballet dancers.
That list of sports that he played, I mean, it goes on and on and on.
Whatever was available, he was playing.
Exactly.
So much so that he ended up playing baseball too in Germany. There are a lot of baseball leagues in Germany.
Call, strike 3, and Suzuki knew it.
Boy, this is some good location on
Yes,
the part
it
of
is.
both pitchers. Irvin Santana is pitching terrific, jamming the hitters. He's had a couple of strikeouts, and Martin Perez has been pinpoint with his pitches. Good movement on his fastball. The ball into Kepler. That ball comes back and catches the inside corner to Suzuki. Martin has not been a high strikeout guy this year. He only struck out 47 batters, but through 8 hitters in the game, he has 3.
You know, you hear pitchers talk about execution. There's a hot shot that's flagged down by Elvis. Quick throw, and Buxton shot down at first. We'll continue that thought when Martin goes back out for the 4th inning. We have finished 3 in Minneapolis. We are still scoreless on Fox Sports Southwest. Fireworks show is coming up on Friday, July 8th. Rangers take on these Twins, and fans using the online coupon code FIREWORKS you can get upper reserve tickets for just $14 each. You can enjoy Rangers baseball, a post-game fireworks show set to 80s music. Get your tickets at TexasRangers.com/specials for Friday, July 8th. Bauer kind of dropped to both knees. I think he stumbled, but able to corral that Beltre Q shot. That is out number 1. And let's check in with Emily Jones.
Well, Buzz, Prince Fielder appears to be returning to his form, or his normal form, after struggling to start the season. Prince says that a lot of it has to do with what's going on throughout the Rangers lineup.
You know, good hitting is contagious, and I think you know, when you're having that rhythm, you just feel confident. You know, even though you don't have to worry about getting it done, because you know somebody else will also. So it's definitely a lot more fun when everybody's hitting, and like you said, I mean, that's what wins games, and you know, that's why you've been winning a lot.
And now the offense is going to start to hit the baseball. In this game, that's what's going to cue it right there, guys.
That's the one? Okay. All right. We'll keep our eye on that, Em. And hold you to that.
Well, you got the right guy up at the plate. If it's going to start, might as well start right here with big guy.
We'll make some loud noises. Fly ball to the left the first time that Prince was in that batter's box. 1 ball and 1 strike.
Some other Ranger fans to mention that are in town. Kelly and Vic Quick are here for the 3 games. Randy and Claudine Geisel, Ranger season ticket customers. Seen Randy and Claudine, oh, I don't know for how many years, 15 or 20 years. They travel a lot on the road to watch their favorite team. And Tucker and Jan Heft are here from Holly Lake Ranch in Texas. Jan grew up in Minnesota. She's a Texan now. She also sent us up a big batch of sweets, so thank you for that very much.
I haven't gotten to look at those yet.
Oh, they're here.
Or
they're here.
Sampled them yet. Up the middle, but that's right where the shortstop Nunez is positioned. 2 gone.
Boy, not much in the way of hard hit balls in this game. I guess Nomar's line drive to left field would be one of the hard hit balls. Not sure if there's been another one.
Beltre lined to right field in the first time up. Back in the first inning. You're right, Tom. They're not a lot. It looks like Santana has pretty good command of the slider, but he has good command of the fastball, which sets everything else up.
Yeah, locating it.
Here's Rougned Odor. He had a fly ball to the left his first time. 0-1. Rangers with a couple of hits. Twins have not had a hit tonight. Playing in the top of the 4th inning. Santana with the 0-1. That will even things up. Talking about Odor, leading the club with 15 home runs this year. He had 8 home runs in June. That was good for 6th in the American League. That's the thing that's kind of amazing on the Ranger Ball Club. He is the team leader since last All-Star break. He has 27 home runs since the 2015 All-Star break. We're going on right at a year now. That break starts next week. That's 4 more than Adrian Beltre at that span. Generating some power and getting the job done in a lot of different spots in the order. 2-2. Irvin Santana about ready to unleash his 68th pitch of the night. Got him swinging.
He's got it going right now, boy.
Santana with his 3rd strikeout. Rangers out in order after 3.5. No score in the Twin Cities. Take a look at tonight's greater coverage of baseball, brought to you by T-Mobile. Now the Detroit Tigers on the comeback trail last night. He raced a 5-run deficit, 6 singles, a bases-loaded walk, and a 3-run double. Scored 8 runs in the 9th inning against Tampa Bay. And Yoenis Cespedes at it again. He thinks it's home run derby every time he goes to Citi Field. 441-foot home run last night against the Cubs. The first home run during a regulation game to reach the 3rd deck at Citi Field. Eduardo Nunez, the leadoff hitter for the Minnesota Twins, batting for the 2nd time tonight. He pops up to right field. Chu circling under it. And that is the 2nd out in the air tonight. The first out to the outfield off of Martin Perez. 1 up, 1 away for Joe Mauer. Martin Perez has used a grand total of 35 pitches to get 10 outs. That's pretty efficient.
Yeah, he's been throwing quality strikes too.
Yeah.
26 strikes. 9 balls.
Ball 1 to Mauer, who grounded it out to second back in the 1st inning. Joe Mauer, for a lot of years, the face of the Minnesota franchise up here. Slices 1 to left, long run for Mazara, and that ball slices 2 feet foul.
But both those balls that Mauer hit out that way, the one that Nomar slid into the wall trying to catch, from our angle up here off the bat, they look like they're going to be fair by an easy margin. And they just keep slicing and slicing, and you watch Nomar run after him, you see he's not going to get to him, and then you go, oh, good, they're foul. Look like they're going to drop for fair hits.
What Joe Mauer has done against the Rangers, that's not a very high average considering what Mauer has done against everybody else. 234 is all he has averaged. 2 balls and a strike to it. Mauer moving up the all-time list of Twins offensive numbers. He's 2nd in doubles now, 350 2-baggers for Mauer. And 3-1 the count. Also 3rd in average, a career .311 hitter. Well, the first time Martin Perez has had a 3-ball count tonight. To the wind he goes, and the pitch in tight, ball 4. There's the first base runner for the Twins. A 1-out walk here in the 4th. Well, Perez now will have to throw from the stretch for the first time here this evening, and he will deal to Miguel Sano. Mauer not much of a base stealing threat at first. Never has run very well. The years have taken their toll. Sano went down swinging back in the 1st inning. One ball, no strikes. Here's the first opportunity for Martin Perez to add to his ground ball double play total. Leads the major leagues. He's got Mauer at first, and Sano, who hits the ball reasonably hard on the ground. And he takes inside. It's 2-0. 19 ground ball double plays induced by that man this year. A little visit from Rougned Odor and from Bobby Wilson. Sano, despite being on the injured list, missing 27 ball games, still has grounded into 4. So he's a prime candidate. One out, 1 on, a 2-0 count to Sano. 2-1. Good low fastball at 94. Double plays turned. This is all kinds of double plays, not just ground balls. 102 for the Rangers, 86 for Oakland, the next closest. Detroit right on down the list, but the Rangers far and away having the most double plays this year. Nothing. 0-2.
That's a pretty good sign. Fastball count, 2 straight fastballs right by Sano. Struck him out with a great fastball in the first inning. That one in the first inning was sinking down at 95 miles an hour.
Martin shaking off a pitch. Now he has the one he wants. Just missed inside. 3 balls, 2 strikes. Sano, the number 3 hitter, be followed by Brian Dozier, the second baseman. Perez, a belt high set. The payoff pitch. Well, it has a lot of life to it tonight. That fastball really moving. So the Rangers have won the last 7 starts that Martin Perez has made. He has been credited with 6 of those victories, 6 in a row. Another 3-2 upcoming. Inside, ball 4. And there are 2 aboard with 1 out. Back-to-back walks. We'll take a look at tonight's Kubota Power Stats. Talking about Martin Perez. 8th lowest opponent's batting average with runners in scoring positions, 208 mark. Last season, completely different story, a 361 average for the opposition's hitters when they had men in scoring position. Jeff Bannister keeping a close eye on his young left-hander. Dozier fouled out to Elvis Andrus. And he takes a belt high strike.
Dozier's a right-hand hitter who he's up there to pull the ball. He tries to hook the ball, and he's got good enough power to get away with it too. Last 11 games he's hit 6 home runs. Got off to a bad start, but he's heated up lately.
1 ball and 1 strike. Brian Dozier and Mitch Moreland grew up playing summer league ball with each other. Also, they were high school adversaries. They were bitter rivals, as to hear Mitch put it. But he said they've been close friends from that time forward. They still keep in touch and see each other in the winter.
Oh, and when Dozier popped up, I noticed that they both spoke to each other. When Dozier ran past first base on the pop-up that he hit.
Mitch probably congratulated him going by.
Nice pop-up.
Little Mississippi greeting.
Yeah, Dozier's got a pretty good eye at the plate too. He'll take his share of walks.
Martin trying to work around a little wild patch. That's out of play, well down the right field line. The count evens at 2-2. It's the kind of thing that Jeff Bannister and Doug Bocale have been working or talking to Martin Perez about. Keeping his emotions under control in a spot like this, where things aren't necessarily going the way you'd like for them to. But to keep the emotion in check so that you don't make matters worse by having your emotions on a sleeve. Jeff had mentioned that he feels very strongly there's a big difference between playing with emotion and being emotional. Double play ground ball. Elvis, Odor, Moreland, 6-4-3. Rangers get it over the 20th time behind Martin Perez. That double play takes care of the Twins. No runs, no hits, 1 left after 4. We are scoreless in the Twin Cities. Texas Rangers baseball on Fox Sports Southwest is brought to you by Southwest Airlines. Transparency, low fares, nothing to hide. And by the all-new 3-row Mazda CX-9, meticulously crafted for driving, because driving matters. Elvis Andrus starting off the Ranger 5th inning. Scoreless ball game. Only 2 hits in the game belong to the Rangers. A single by Nomar Mazara and a single by Ian Desmond. Elvis hit the ball sharply, lined to second base his first time up there. Bottom third of the Ranger order here in the 5th inning. A little bit wide, 2 balls and a strike. Elvis, 2 out of 11 in the series in New York. One of those downturns of late, just a .222 average in his last 8 games. He lines this one to center. Buxton started back in a hurry, put the brakes on, then had to reach up to make the catch. Elvis a hard out, number 1, probably the hardest ball that Rangers have hit tonight.
Yeah, we haven't had a chance to see Buxton very much, but he was a very high draft choice, tremendous athlete. And anyone that has seen him play very often say he can really play center field.
So 1 hard out. Here's Mitch Moreland, who grounded out to first. Looks at strike 1. Season numbers for Mitch. You can go back over his last 19 games. He's just below 300 of the average, 296. He had a rip at a high fastball. It is 0-2. Well, despite only having a couple of hits tonight off Santana, the Rangers have made him work reasonably well. 75 pitches now coming up for Santana with 1 out here in the 5th. Check swing on that slider down and in. A ball and 2 strikes. Santana over 100 pitches the last couple of times out, but last time he only made 100 pitches work for 5 innings. Another chop foul. Against the Yankees 6 days ago, Santana threw 102 pitches in 5 innings. Another 1-2 pitch to Moreland. Reached for it, and a 2-hopper out to Sano, third baseman playing in that second base spot. 2 gone, and Bobby Wilson will be next. Wilson popped up to Sano his first time. Got jammed by Santana. One ball, no strikes. Wilson and Santana, of course, battery mates. They were both with the Angels several years ago. Up the middle, but that's where the second baseman Dozier is placed. On to first, it's a 1-2-3 inning. Santana now has retired 7 straight. We've played half the ball game here in the Twin Cities. The Rangers nothing and the Twins nothing on Fox Sports Southwest. on Sunday, July 10th, Rangers and the Twins hook it up again. The first 15,000 fans will get a Cole Hamels bobblehead. That's courtesy of Dr. Pepper and Tom Thumb. It's your last chance to see the Rangers play before the All-Star break. Now visit TexasRangers.com or call 972-RANGERS to get your tickets for the 10th of July. Trevor Plouffe, the designated hitter, leading things off here in the 5th inning for Minnesota. Plouffe, Grossman, and Kepler. The first three to face Martin Perez. 1 ball and 1 strike. Plouffe, a ground ball to short back in the 2nd inning. That ball's ripped to left, but it's hooked foul. Hard off the stone wall down there and into the seats. One and 2 after that loud foul. And this one popped up the other way. That'll peel back into the seats. Bobby Wilson maneuvering Martin Perez through the first 4 innings very efficiently. Martin has had very good command for the most part. Through a little stretch last inning where it eluded him a bit. He was able to conquer it to get the inning-ending double play. And now starting the 5th, he has a 2-2 count to Plouffe. Slowly hit Beltre charging. Bare hand from down under 9 times. That's all that Adrian can do. He did it flawlessly, but Plouffe able to leg it out. That's the first hit of the night for the Twins against Martin Perez.
Yeah, Adrian was just back far enough to where he had too far to go and couldn't quite get it there in time. Made a great attempt. You can see where he is. He's almost back on the outfield grass. You can't make the play better than that. I don't care who you are.
Nope.
You can't get it to first base any quicker than that.
Boy, to have the agility and the arm strength to throw from down there, the bounce, incredible. I don't care if you're 37 or 27 or anything in between. So 1 on, nobody out. Robbie Grossman showing bunt. Takes the pitch low for ball 1. If you weren't convinced about Adrian Beltre's Hall of Fame candidacy, plays like that will convince you. I have never seen a third baseman be able to do the things that he does on plays like that. Just incredible. Grossman grounded to short his first time up there. Beltre dives, can't get it. It's into left field for a base hit. Adrian playing up, guarding against the bunt. And Grossman able to smack it by him. Well, the first 2 hitters aboard here in the 5th inning. And Max Kepler will come up.
Ball's only about a foot away from being a double play. Grossman hit it solidly enough to where Adrian didn't have time to go far enough to catch it. But there's getting a ground ball in a double play situation. Martin has that weapon. You see him in front of the bag. And Grossman hit it pretty well. Hit it by him. Solidly hit base hit. Maybe a bunt situation right here for Kepler.
Yeah, with a pretty hot swinging Max Suzuki, or Kurt Suzuki, I should say, right behind him. It's possible that Max Kepler would be asked to bunt. Kepler struck out the first time that he faced Martin Perez. Beltre kind of playing side saddle at third. The bunt is in. It's up in the air a bit. Only play is to first, and just in time to get Kepler.
Wow.
Well, Max Kepler busting it down that line pretty good, and had a little backspin on that bunt so that Martin Perez had to come a little further for it than he had initially thought.
I thought off the bat he might have popped it up to one of the fielders to be able to catch it, but once it bounced, that becomes a hard play. It's easier to pick up a rolling ball and throw it than it is one that's stopped and he kind of deadens that ball, and it's almost a dead stop when Martin actually picked it up with his glove and barely got him at first base.
And the Twin skipper Paul Molitor saying, hang on a second here, we're going to take a look at it. And his video review folks upstairs said, no sense challenging that. What they were looking at was right there. Ball on the glove, the hand not quite, or foot not quite on the bag. So sacrifice goes 1-4. But now runners at second and third with one out, and Kurt Suzuki to the plate. Suzuki called out on strikes in the third inning. First pitch from Perez. Right off the end of the bat, and that's going to squib foul. Fortunately.
Yeah, would have got the run.
Yeah.
Would have got the run, and wouldn't have looked like much, but it would have made it 1-0.
Our Ford leaderboard taking you back since the last day of May. Batting average leaders, Altuve at 419. Suzuki third down there at 377. Kurt has been swinging the hot bat. We mentioned the 14 RBI over his last 16 games. And this for a Twins club that is dead last in scoring. Has 317 runs this year. Infield playing back with one out. The bunt is on. It's popped up. Moreland has it. They're going to turn it into a double play with no problem. Thank you very much.
That's a ground ball double play, but it'll work.
It all counts. Goes toward the being the second double play of the night. And the Twins are done in the fifth. No runs, 2 hits, 1 left. No score after 5. It's time for the Sonic Slam Inning, brought to you by Sonic. Tonight's jackpot is worth $200 and dinner for 2 at Sonic Drive-In. If a Ranger hits a home run during this inning, Kerry Hoover from Newark, Texas, will win $200. And if a Ranger hits a grand slam this inning, Kerry is going to take home $25,000. You can register at any participating Sonic restaurant. Now the top of the Ranger order to face Irvin Santana. Shin-Soo Choo for his third at bat tonight. He is 0 for 1 with a walk, and he takes ball 1. Martin Perez and company dodging a pretty serious bullet in that 5th inning. That's out of play to the left. Back-to-back singles, the sacrifice bunt, runners at second and third, and Paul Molitor asked Kurt Suzuki to lay down a suicide squeeze with Trevor Plouffe coming down the line from third. The pop up to Moreland. Thank you very much. Back to the dugout. Don't see this one too often, do you, Tom?
No. Suzuki's a guy that makes pretty good contact.
Yeah.
And he made pretty good contact on that bunt, too.
Beltre is going to make sure he makes that catch. Still a scoreless game. And Chu gone on strikes. Second time tonight that he has gone down swinging.
Well, it's a different kind of performance, but Santana has been just as baffling today as the Rangers were baffled by a power pitcher yesterday.
Yep.
Yesterday was just domination with strikeouts by Michael Pineda. That tremendous slider that he had, mid-90s fastball. Not quite as overpowering today by Santana, but the results are better. Rangers haven't scored off him. At least they scored once off Pineda yesterday.
Right.
And Chu's home run.
Ian Desmond, 1 out of 2. That slider called a strike by Bob Davidson. Desmond snapped an 0 for 10 that he was in with a base hit up the middle last time up. One ball and 2 strikes. Desmond came into play tonight hitting at .318. That was good for 7th in the American League. Still tied for the top in multi-hit games, 33 of them. High in the air to right center field, carrying pretty well. Buxton back at the track, at the wall. That ball is off the wall. Desmond at second puts the brakes on as Buxton gets the ball back in. But Ian Desmond hitting it about halfway up that scoreboard in the middle of the wall in right center field. And the Rangers, for the first time since the first inning, have a runner in scoring position.
Yeah, that was tough to tell where that ball was going to end up as high as Ian hit it. And you know that if it's within jumping distance, Buxton's going to catch it. Fortunately, it was above his head and above his glove had he tried to jump for it. He's thinking about it right there, but it hits up above the green part. Ian's thinking about maybe going for 3, but sees how quickly Buxton gets it in and doesn't try.
He wanted to really badly, too. Now, Nomar Mazara fouls it back. Saw Ian busting it right out of the box. He was thinking that thing goes off the wall. I got a chance to get to third, and we can get a run here. Now, Nomar tonight 1 for 2. He had a single back in the first inning. Last time up, tapped right back to the mound.
Yeah, the single that he hit was a pitch away that he drove into left field. Since then, he's had a steady diet of pitches on the inside part of the plate. That's an off-speed pitch, but Santana was able to jam him the last time up, that little tapper back to the mound. The first pitch to him was inside. I don't think you'll see a fastball out over the plate.
Now, I was going to say, with that last slower breaking ball, he set him up pretty well for a fastball inside again. 0-2 the count. Went with the slider down and in. 1 ball and 2 strikes. One more note on Ian Desmond with that double. Now another multi-hit game, 34 for the season.
Yeah, he quickly erased that 0 for 9 we were talking about.
Sure
too.
did.
Whoa, that was close.
Like Ian going back to the bag was trying to get his footwork right so he could touch the bag with the foot he chose, but
I think that if the tag was closer to third base, he might have had him. Looked like he put the tag on him behind the bag. Well, the throw was behind the bag, which is why he had to do it. But better throw might have been even closer.
0-2, 2 balls, 2 strikes now. Yeah, left foot on the bag the whole time. Boy, anymore you have to take a look at that. The guy goes back in to make sure he maintained contact with the bag while that tag is being applied. Low and outside, the count is now full. Well, Mazara trying to get aboard to join Desmond. Adrian Beltre waiting his turn. Rangers trying to break through here tonight. Scoreless ball game. Rangers with 3 hits. The Twins with 2. Santana with a payoff pitch. Popped him up. Left side, Sano. And the shortstop Nunez going out. It's Nunez who makes a nice running catch.
Sano and Grossman are lucky that Nunez was there because neither one of them were going to get to it. Nunez just came flying into the picture and made the play. Probably an easier play for him anyway. Tough.
Now, before Beltre steps in, let's send it back to Dana Larson for a Chevy game break. All right, Dana, thanks very much. Adrian Beltre trying to untie this one. Scoreless here in the 6th inning. Beltre, right man in the right spot as far as the Rangers are concerned. 5th in the American League in average with runners in scoring position, a .386 average. Also tied for first with 44 RBI in these situations. Adrian so far has lined to right field and grounded to first. 2 balls, no strikes. Santana approaching that 100 pitch level. He's at 95 now with 2 outs here in the 6th. Slowly hit down the third baseline. Tough play for Sano. Nice barehanded pickup, and he got Beltre.
A pretty good play for a guy that big.
Yep. No, the Rangers get a 1-out double, but Strand Desmond, we played 5.5 at Target Field. Rangers nothing, Twins nothing on Fox Sports Southwest. Texas Rangers Hall of Fame luncheon will take place on Friday, July 29th. You can join the Texas Rangers as we honor Michael Young for his induction into the Texas Rangers Baseball Hall of Fame. To reserve a table or purchase individual tickets to this special event, just visit texasrangers.com/luncheon. Martin Perez back to the hill. Byron Buxton, the number 9 hitter, leading things off. 1 ball and 1 strike. It'll be Buxton, Nunez, and Mauer. Scoreless ball game, just 5 total hits tonight. 2 by the Twins, 3 by the Rangers. Breaking ball makes it 2-1.
Yeah, Buxton is a highly touted young player. Started out the season hitting 156 in the first 17 games. Got sent to the minor leagues, hit over 330 in an extended period of time. And now he's back playing a little bit better.
And he is aboard with that tremendous speed, a leadoff single. And it takes the Twins back to the top of the order.
Now he's 6 for 6 in stolen bases, and you have to think that Paul Molitor would not be afraid to send him right here. It's a good ball, tailing down and away, gets the ground ball, but a little bit too sharply for Martin to get the glove on it.
So hits are even at 3 tonight. Buxton aboard. Eduardo Nunez 0 for 2, a ground out and a fly ball to right. Look out. Joe Mauer in the on-deck circle. Kind of got low bridge by that foul ball.
And Nunez was trying to shoot a ball through the hole with Mitch holding the runner on. He was noticeably trying to go the other way. Went so far the other way, almost hit the on-deck hitter.
Well, one advantage the Rangers have with Buxton at first base is that Perez being left-handed, you kind of keep a better eye on him. Hurries up that motion just a little bit, makes it a little tougher for especially a young base stealer to get a good jump. See, Minnesota fourth, I should say, tied with Boston for 51 stolen bases. That's good for third. Rangers just behind. Martin Perez, the next pitch will be his 70th of the night. Had to use more pitches the last couple of innings. The first 3, he was perfect and went through them in 35 pitches. Get the first 10 outs, as a matter of fact. Call, strike 3.
Tried to go to right twice and then took one right down the middle.
Martin Perez with his 4th strikeout of the night.
I'd say right down the middle. Not quite right down the middle. Came back toward the middle of the plate on the inside corner. Very nice pitch there. Added extra movement right at the end is, I think, what fooled Nunez, why he thought it wasn't a strike.
Anybody, you can see at 4th inning when Martin had the 2 walks, the back-to-back walks, ran that pitch total up to 19, but still very, very manageable. A 1 out. Here's Joe Mauer. Mauer tonight drew a walk in that 4th inning. He and Sano, who hits right behind him, drew the back-to-back walks. Other than that, Mauer is grounded out in his only other time to the plate. Wouldn't be a bad spot for another ground ball, more traditional double play. 1 ball, no strikes.
Man, what was that pitch?
Martin a little upset with Bob Davidson. This is where Martin really needs to be able to keep himself under control. Bob Davidson, a veteran umpire, and any outward sign of emotion or disagreement with the call is going to get you in trouble. Here's our Fox tracker showing you the location on the Fox track where that pitch was. And another toss to drive Buxton back. Now, a lot of options here for the Twins. You have a guy like Mauer who handles the bat pretty well. Question is, do you want to start Buxton and give Mauer the option to swing the bat, run and hit, or do you want to put a hit and run on and make him swing the bat? 1 ball, 1 strike. Or do you just want to play it straight? See what happens. Rangers playing maybe a half step around to the right. Perez a long look to first. And this is low and away. 2-1. Power out momentarily. Now back in as Perez gets the sign. And misses low and away. 3 balls and a strike. body language reverting just a little bit.
Yeah, really.
Mannerism a little quicker.
In this situation, just aim the ball in the middle of the plate, throw it low, try to get a ground ball. Mauer's not the same hitter that he was a while back, and never been a home run hitter.
And that's low, ball 4. 2 aboard with 1 out. Miguel Sano coming up. And Bobby Wilson going to go out, and Doug Brocail is going to join them. Most of the infield joining in on this meeting. 3rd walk of the night for Martin Perez. Doug Brocail out there to have a little sage advice for the left-hander. Just reminding everybody what they want to try and do. Who's covering second? Ground ball back to the pitcher. Elvis have the bag, or does Rougned Odor have the bag? Make sure Martin's aware of that. Elvis saying a couple of things after everyone departs, along with Rougned, to Martin Perez, trying to get him back in the focus of throwing quality pitches. And you have to with a guy like Miguel Sano coming up. This is not the time to have your focus shifted away from executing that pitch. Sano drew a walk in the 4th inning, struck out in the 1st. First pitch is inside for ball 1. And Martin nods in agreement. Beltre right at the bag, steps on it across the diamond with the throw in time. And Martin Perez with 1 pitch makes all things right in this world. The 5-3 double play. The Twins are gone. They get a hit, a walk, and strand 1. On to the 7th, still scoreless. Our forward game summary tonight. Good pitching matchup. Irvin Santana with 3 hits allowed, 1 walk, 4 strikeouts. He has had the Rangers off balance a lot. His mound opponent, Martin Perez, has been equally good. Only blemish on Martin's evening, 3 walks in the span of 8 hitters. But he has countered that with 3 double plays turned behind him. So the result, a scoreless ball game as we head to inning number 7. Prince Fielder to start things off. Fielder 0 for 2, a fly out to left, and a ground ball to short. Prince a swing and a miss. 1 ball and 2 strikes.
He's had great command of his sinker. He's thrown good sliders, and he's had an excellent changeup too, with good command of all of them. Kept them all down, all on the corners. Very few great pitches to hit tonight.
2-2 now. Now this is, well, vintage Urban Santana, if you will, at least against the Rangers. He's been awfully good. 101st pitch of the evening. Prince fouls it away. Might be a time getting up to his maximum pitch limit, what Santana has. The Rangers can maybe take advantage of a pitch or two out over the plate. We'll see. That's a little bit low. And the count has gone full. Ryan Presley, the right-hander for the Twins, loosening in that Twins bullpen. Young man from Coppell. Foul back. There was one that stayed in the middle of the plate. Prince just a little bit out in front of him. Fielder currently at .217 with the average. Fouled back just to our left. Prince asking home plate umpire Bob Davidson if that was a strike, and Bob nodded affirmatively.
Yeah, he said, yeah, you swung at it. Must have been a strike.
Yeah. It wasn't until you fouled it off. Another 3-2 pitch. Outside, ball 4. Well, Prince, a well-earned walk to lead off the 7th inning. The fielder aboard. That's just the second walk tonight, issued by Urban Santana. Rougned Odor will come up. I'm wondering about using a pinch runner. Part of the dilemma that Jeff Bannister has with having 3 catchers on the roster is you really can't use either one of them as a pinch runner except in the most dire situations. And that only leaves you with Ryan Rua and Jurickson Profar. You'd like to save those guys for pinch hitting roles later on. Odor, a fly ball and a strikeout. Yanks that one foul. And now is down to the count 0-2, and looks like he cracked his bat. Have to get a new piece of lumber from the bat boy. How do you hit a ball that hard and break your bat?
Yeah, I don't know. I was just thinking the same thing. I don't know how he broke it. Unless he just wanted a different one.
Here's what Jeff Bannister has to work with, the position players available to him and the bullpen. 7-man bullpen and the 4 position players. Inside and low. Nice stop by Suzuki. That'll keep Prince Fielder at first. A ball and 2 strikes. Rangers trying to get something going here in the 7th inning. Fielder drew the walk to begin things. Now Rougned Odor trying to battle Urban Santana. Right-hander's ready. Check swing. That pitch down a bit too low. 2-2. Santana now at with the next pitch will be at 110 this evening. He has already tied the most pitches he has thrown in a game this year with 109. Another check swing. Did he go around? Yes, he did. Bob Davidson thought he saw that well enough, and Odor is going to complain a little bit. Bob Davidson, just explaining it to him, that I saw it, I thought you win. That is out number 1.
I think the hitter in that circumstance will always say, if it's questionable, ask the guy at third. And, you know, the umpire has the right to make it if he saw it. In that case, he missed it because he didn't swing at that pitch. It wasn't even close.
I agree.
He stopped the bat in time. That's all the hitter asks for. If there's any doubt, ask third base umpire.
Well, Paul Molitor out there to talk to Ervin Santana, and he's going to stick with the right-hander. He has Presley ready in the bullpen if needed, but apparently Paul Molitor went to the mound and heard what he needed to hear to leave Santana in the ballgame. Now, fielder at first, 1 away. Elvis Andrus has hit the ball sharply 2 times tonight. He has lined to second, lined to center. Elvis at 282 with the average. Trying to advance fielder from first base. Ball 1. Elvis out checking with Spike Owen down there at third. One ball and 1 strike. Elvis over the years against Santana, now 48 at bats. He's gone 12 for 48. Chopper foul. Now the count in Santana's favor at 1-2. A season high pitch total for Ervin Santana. Right-hander checks fielder. Misses with a breaking ball. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Ervin Santana out of San Cristobal in the Dominican Republic. Signed originally with the Angels. His major league debut with them back in 2007. Jam shot. That's fought off foul over the Ranger dugout.
That ball was hit so softly, ladies were jumping up out of their seats to try to catch it. That's another one you don't see very often.
No, you don't.
Get jammed like this. The ball would have hit him if he didn't foul it off. That ball's coming right in on his chest.
That pitch off the plate inside, a little more mustard on that one. 3-2. The fielder at first, a full count with 1 out to Elvis. Mitch Moreland waiting in the on-deck circle. Payoff pitch. Ball 4. That puts 2 on with 1 out. Second walk of the inning. And Moreland coming to the plate. And Molitor going to the mound. So that's going to do it for Santana. He was given the 1 more hitter by Paul Molitor, and he ended up walking Andrus. He couldn't get Elvis to bite on that 3-2 breaking ball. So the second walk of the inning, and that's going to do it for Santana, who goes 6 1/3 innings. Allows just 3 hits. A couple of walks got him in trouble late. He leaves with 2 aboard at his responsibility. Ryan Presley is going to make his way in from the bullpen. We're going to take a timeout. We're back to Minneapolis right after this on Fox Sports Southwest. Right-hander Ryan Presley on now. Ryan out of Coppell, Texas. In his 4th year with Minnesota. He came over as a Rule 5 draft out of the Boston Red Sox organization. Spent all of 2013 with the Twins, and then up and down last year and in 2014. This year, working himself into a pretty good role. This is his 40th appearance of the year. He has been a workhorse out of that Twins bullpen. He inherits 2 runners on and 1 out here in a scoreless ball game, the 7th inning, and he throws strike 1 to Mitch Moreland. Moreland has grounded out twice tonight. He's got Fielder at second, Andrus at first. Rangers trying to break through. Good breaking ball from Presley. The count goes to 0-2. Ryan, a good live fastball in the mid-90s. Sharp, sweeping slider.
Yeah, he's appeared in a lot of games. This is his 40th game. He's thrown 42 innings in the first half of the season. Strikeout per inning.
Out of play. Fastball getting up there at 97. Mitch is grounded to the third baseman Sano, who is playing at second in a shift. There's no shift this time. Not with runners at first and second. Mitch is also grounded out to first. Outfield pretty much straight away. Pulled on the ground, base hit to right field. Fielder is going to be held up at third. And Moreland plugging the hole between first and second. The Rangers have the bases full and 1 out. And it looks like Jurickson Profar has grabbed a bat. He's going to come up and pinch hit for Bobby Wilson. Well, Presley this year has had much more trouble against left-handers than against right-handers. And Moreland keeps that streak going.
Yeah, sharply hit ball by Mitch. Right fielder Kepler gets to the ball, gets it in. Prince is held at third, and now Jurickson has a chance to bring in the first run of this ball game.
Well, Profar at .337 average, and he takes a knee-high strike. Jurickson, you remember, had the big game-winning 2-run single in St. Louis. Rangers able to come back in that ball game. On the outside corner, 0-2. So far, 3 home runs, 9 driven in. Just 1 for his last 7 times to the plate, but he's got a chance here to get the Rangers on top. Line drive, base hit to center field. Fielder scores. Elvis Andrus right behind him will score. Profar gets it done again. A pinch hit, 2-run single, and the Rangers lead it 2-0.
Boy, that is getting it done. You've got a kid out in the mound that's throwing 97 miles an hour with a hard slider. He threw 2 perfect pitches, got ahead in the count 0-2. Jurickson now is in survival mode. Now, I believe that's the 2nd time this year, Buzz, that he's had a big pinch hit to drive in a couple of runs.
Did it in St. Louis on that Sunday afternoon.
That's right. That's right. He muscled that one.
Yep.
Over the infield into center field, pick up a couple of runs. Elvis was flying on that one.
Now Shin-Soo Choo trying to add on. He's got runners at first and second. Drops that first pitch foul. And Profar pumped up, and he should be.
I don't blame him. That's a big hit in this game.
You get down 0-2, and you've got 2 tough pitches to look for, and you find one that's hittable, and you don't miss it.
That's exactly right.
Oh, 0-1 the count to Choo. Backhanded by Mauer to second. The return to first not in time. Pitcher Presley covering. Force play at second base. Removes Profar. On to third goes Moreland. So the Rangers now with 2 outs. Runners at the corners for Ian Desmond. Profar getting high fives all around that Ranger dugout, and rightfully so. A huge pinch hit single to drive in 2 and get the Rangers on top in the 7th inning.
Well, Jurickson has played a big role on the team, being able to play all 4 infield positions and proving to be a very solid pinch hitter. That's not an easy job. Generally, it's a veteran guy that excels at that role. He's come through a couple of times now in key situations.
Profar getting the Rangers on the board. Now Desmond trying to add to it. Got Moreland at third, Chu over there at first, who drew that throw. Desmond tonight 2 for 3, a single and a double. Profar's single, and that closed the book on Ervin Santana. Breaking ball, and he was able to check his swing. That's just off the outer edge. Santana 6 1/3, 3 hits, 2 runs. They're both earned. 3 walks, 4 strikeouts. Another toss to first, and Chu just able to get that foot back on the bag. Desmond, that average back up to 322 as he faces Presley. Out of play. A ball and 2 strikes. No joy in Mudville tonight, or at least the Twins version of it. Got him swinging. Power hook, and that'll do it. But the Rangers get on the board. Jurickson Profar comes through. Rangers get 2 runs on 2 hits. They leave 2. We'll take the stretch in Minneapolis. Rangers leading the Twins 2-0. Catch you up on the Rangers' schedule. Just starting this holiday weekend 3-game series with the Twins tomorrow afternoon, Sunday afternoon. Then it's on to Boston, the 4th of July afternoon at Fenway Park. Tuesday and Wednesday night, then the Rangers come back home to finish the pre-All-Star game portion of the schedule, 4 against these Minnesota Twins. Martin Perez going to work here in the bottom of the 7th. And he has a 1-ball, 1-strike count now to Brian Dozier. Martin Perez trying to settle back down and get this ball club deeper into the ball game. And Robinson Chirinos and his battery mate now, taking over for Bobby Wilson, who was pinch hit for very effectively by Jurickson Profar. Martin, the 2-1 pitch. And that is a little bit low. 3 balls and a strike. Dozier 0 for 2.
This spot, you just can't have a walk right here.
Yep.
Just scored 2 runs. Pitching a nice ball game. Get strike 1. Just got to come back and get him right here. Don't want to put a man on. There you go.
3-2. Dozier grounded into a double play and hit a foul pop. 0 for 2 tonight. 263 average. Perez goes to the wide. Sharply hit through the hole on the left side, a base hit.
Okay, make him hit his way on. Doing a couple of strikes, got a base hit. Ground ball could have been right to third base.
4th base hit of the night for the Twins. They've all come within the last 9 hitters. How about our high-speed internet from AT&T high-speed replay? The Rangers getting pretty good at this. They've had enough opportunities to double play, all manner of double plays tonight. A ground out, a pop out on a suicide squeeze, and Adrian Beltre going corner to corner. High-speed AT&T fashion.
Been 1 double play each of the last 3 innings. Got a shot at another one right here in the 7th inning.
Trevor Plouffe and a base hit leading off the 5th. He was the one that was cut down on that aborted suicide squeeze bunt. There's a strike. Quick note, Brian Dozier increasing his career high hitting streak with that base hit to 13. The 1-1 pitch. Matt Bush loosening and looks to be ready at that Ranger bullpen if Jeff Bannister is so inclined to go that way. To right field, hit pretty well. Chua is going back. He pulls up. That ball's gone. Plouffe hits it out the other way, and we are back even. It's 2 apiece. Trevor Plouffe with his 7th home run of the year.
Yeah, Martin has been very good this year keeping the ball in the ballpark. 0.8 home runs per 9 innings. He's the 9th lowest home run rate. Plouffe got a pitch that stayed up and out over the plate. Shows pretty good power to drive that ball out of the ballpark in right field. That's just a pitch that Martin got in a part of the plate that he wasn't aiming for. Trying to keep the ball down and get a double play. Got it up, and Plouffe got it up.
And that overhang out there, a little bit shorter than any other place on that wall, and it just carried into the flower box. So, brand new ball game, tied at 2. 5 hits apiece. Robbie Grossman 1 out of 2. Two balls and a strike. You got to be careful here if you're Martin Perez. Careful in that you don't let the letdown affect how you go after Grossman. 3-1. Perez pitch count still very manageable at 91. 3-1 pitch coming. Right at Rougned Odor. There is out number 1. Grossman retired. Max Kepler coming up before he steps in. Let's head back to Dana Larson for a Chevy game break. All right, Dana, thank you. Here we are deadlocked at 2 as Max Kepler takes a little bit low for ball 1. Kepler has had a sacrifice bunt and struck out. He is 0 for 1. That evens the count to him. Kepler, a 243 average. Good tailing fastball that time. A ball and 2 strikes. We will try it again at 1-2. Now Martin has done a very good job of gathering himself. He was very disappointed about the home run. He came back and got Grossman. He's made some good pitches to Kepler. Tough part of the job, having to rebound from the disappointment. That pitch just inside. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Got him on the fists and a little pop-up in foul ground. And Robinson Chirinos off with the mask makes the catch for out number 2. That'll bring up Kurt Suzuki.
Well, that's a well-located pitch. If you're going to get it up, get it in like that, jam them.
Kurt Suzuki bunted into that double play back in the 5th inning. He is 0 for 2. He takes strike 1. Kurt Suzuki, one of 40 natives of Hawaii that have played in the big leagues. The 3rd most time in the big leagues of Michael Lum, Shane Victorino, the only 2 ahead of him. Pitch fouled off to the right. And the count goes to 0-2. A 2-2 ball game. We play in the bottom of the 7th inning. Martin Perez trying to shut the door on the Twins. And he gets a pop-up into shallow center field. Ian Desmond camps under it, and that will do it. Well, Trevor Plouffe with a 2-run home run ties the ball game. They get 2 runs on 2 hits. We're going to the 8th. Rangers 2, Twins 2 on Fox Sports Southwest. Baseball live with MLB.com at Bat app. You can stay up to the moment at any moment with game day, live game video highlights, StatCast, news, and a lot more. Download MLB.com at Bat, the #1 app for live baseball on your phone or tablet. Well, a 2-2 ball game as the Rangers come to bat here in the 8th inning. Nomar Mazara will start things off, and Paul Molitor has gone to the bullpen once again. Taylor Rogers, 25-year-old left-hander from Littleton, Colorado, has come on now. Rogers, an 11th round pick in the 2012 first-year draft, 21 appearances with the outing here tonight. He's 3-0, so he has been more or less a good luck charm coming out of that bullpen. 3.63 ERA. The league hitting .290 against him. He breaks off that slider to Nomar for strike one. Mazara 1 for 3, had a first inning single. 2 runs on 5 hits for each ball club tonight. 1 ball and 1 strike. Taylor Rogers kind of groomed as a starter throughout his minor league career with the Twins. It's that fastball in at the knees. Rogers last year had 28 starts. I make that 27 starts, 28 appearances for Rochester, the AAA affiliate, winning 11-12. Mazara, Beltre, and Fielder, the first 3 to do the swinging against Taylor Rogers here in the 8th inning. Got him. Pulled the string. Mazara, a strikeout to open up the 8th.
Take a look at that pitch. Breaking ball. You're right, Buzz. It's a pretty good location for a left-hand hitter as far as the batter goes, but the change of speed had him way out in front of it. Worked just like a changeup.
Adrian Beltre takes ball 1. Beltre 0 for 3 tonight. He is lined to right, grounded to first, and grounded to third. One just catching the inside corner. A ball and a strike. Beltre, kind of that wry smile as he looked back at Bob Davidson. Foul past the bag at third. 1-2. Beltre, if you go back to the middle of 2014, about 2 years ago, he's gone 11 for 26 in the last 7 games against the Twins. That's a .424 average. Out of play. Still a ball and 2 strikes. Looks like Taylor Rogers, first couple times you see him, might be a little difficult. He's got a big variation in velocity from his fastball to his breaking ball. That's hard hit and through for a base hit. Beltre got one that hung out over the plate, and he rifled that by Miguel Sano for the base hit. Oh, Adrian thumped that one pretty well. So Adrian with that base hit now, a 10-game hitting streak. Here's Fielder. Prince drew a walk leading off the 7th inning, and that proved to be an important walk for the Rangers. Urban Santana would also walk Elvis Andrus 1 out later, and the 2 of them would score on Jurickson Profar's pinch hit single. Fastball just missed down and away. 2-0. Now the left-hander, Jacob Beltre.
Ooh, pretty good pitch, 2-0.
Yep.
He looks like he can throw that pitch for a strike at any time. You have to think so. And a 2-0 pitch, being able to throw it. He's only walked 4 guys in 22 innings, and it looks like he likes to feature that breaking ball. Probably comes in when he's going to face a good number of left-hand hitters.
Came back with a fastball, a pretty good sinking, tailing action at 94. And he evens the count down to fielder at 2 balls, 2 strikes. Brent's getting things turned around pretty well. A couple of home runs, 7 RBI in his last 8 ball games. Call, strike 3. A fastball right at the bottom of the zone. That is out number 2. Next will be Rougned Odor.
Pretty tough pitch to hit right there. Lower part of the zone, right on the corner.
Odor 0 for 3 tonight. A couple of strikeouts and a fly out to left. 0-1. A couple of Odor's home runs lately have come against left-handers. That one's a little bit high. Sean Doolittle up in Oakland and Andrew Miller in New York just this past week.
2 pretty good ones right
Yep.
there. He hit fastballs off 2 pitchers that don't give up many home runs.
One and 2. You can see where Rogers might catch, especially left-handers, kind of in between, looking one or the other. They're such dissimilar pitches. Hard to guess along with him and get the right one. Got him swinging. And Rogers ends up striking out the side. That around a base hit by Beltre. Rangers leave a runner. 7.5 in the books. Rangers 2, Twins 2 on Fox Sports Southwest.
as we head to the bottom of the 8th here at Target Field in Minneapolis. This is the first game of a 3-game series between these two teams. Game 2 tomorrow, a day affair. Things get going at 1 o'clock on Fox Sports Southwest. There you see a couple of the hot hitters headed into this one. Adrian Beltre riding a 10-game streak, 341 average during said streak. And Brian Dozier with a 440 average in his 13-game hitting streak. A big thank you to the fine folks at AT High-Speed Internet for getting us ready for Game 2 of 3 between the Rangers and the Twins. Guys.
All right, Dan, thank you. Well, we head to the 8th inning, and Martin Perez night has come to an end. Matt Bush, 30-year-old right-hander out of San Diego on, and Matt trying to right the ship for himself and for the ball club, as a matter of fact. Has been scored upon in each of his last 3 outings. Run into a little rough patch. This is the roughest he's had it so far in his 23 appearances now. A 2-1 record. 3.10 ERA. That ERA has gone from 1.02 to its present 3.10 mark in 3 outings.
I think the key for Matt is he hasn't had quite the same command the last 3 times out that he had a little bit earlier.
Right.
Earlier he was just spotting that fastball, throwing a curveball for a strike anytime he wanted. Now it's a little bit tougher for him to command his fastball.
Along with being scored upon in each of the last 3 outings, he's walked 1 in each of the last 3 outings. So that's something he didn't do before.
Last guy you want to walk right here. There you go. Buxton has struck out 59 times in 136 at bats, 137 at bats. Struck out almost half the time.
He is 1 for 2 tonight. Ahead of the count, 3 balls and a strike. Shoots one to right. Quick play at first, and Bush just did beat the head-first slide of Byron Buxton.
And he was flying down there. That's a play that normally the first baseman catches, trots over, and the batter's out by whatever, 5-10 steps.
Yeah.
Mitch took one look, knew that he wasn't going to beat Buxton, and fortunately Matt got there, and he just barely beat. I don't know if he beat him or not. It's pretty close. Tough one to tell for the first base umpire.
Yeah, Paul Molitor waiting to get some guidance from the guys upstairs, checking the layout. Boy, that's going to be tough.
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to be overturned, but it looked like he might have got his hand in there. Let's see from this angle.
Yeah, he's out.
Yeah. Very close, but that angle told the story.
Yeah, where you couldn't, from the other side, where you couldn't see where his hand was exactly.
Yeah.
It looked troublesome.
Like it looked like he touched it.
Yeah. So, 1 out, now back to the top of the order. Good job by Matt to come back from a 3-0 count and get Buxton. He'll now deal with Eduardo Nunez. Nunez 0 for 3 tonight. A fly ball, a ground ball, and a strikeout. Strike 1.
Yep,
Right
there it is, right there.
Yep.
Boy, I can't believe it looks so close from the other angle.
I know it. Either that or our eyes weren't what they used to be.
That's possible.
I didn't want to go there right away, but
well, I wasn't watching the monitor. Was that his cutter? 94 miles an hour?
yeah, that was his cutter.
Wow.
And he may have quickened that up a little bit. You know, we talk about cutter slash slider. He may have gone more to a true cutter than and away from the slider.
That last pitch was a fairly big breaker. He threw that to 94 miles an hour. Might be the leader in the clubhouse for that pitch as far as velocity goes.
Got him on the breaking ball, the curveball breaking ball.
There. Boy, if you saw those 3 pitches 3 in a row, most people are going to do what Nunez just did, and that's strike out. One before it broke sideways at 94 miles an hour. That one's 82 miles an hour. Shaking your head right there.
Yeah, I think you might be asking for a bus ticket back to the league below, because that's just not going to work out up here.
Yep.
If many guys throw that.
Mom, I'm coming home. Of course, Nunez is not coming home. He's going to go to the All-Star games where he's going to go.
Joe Mauer, and he takes a knee-high strike. Matt came in, had trouble with the first 3 pitches. Locating him, fell behind 3-0, and since then has pumped the strike zone full of good pitches.
Yeah, Robinson went out and talked to him.
What if you went out and threatened him?
I don't know.
Look, you don't.
What was
No.
that? Do you see the movement on that thing?
Yeah.
Generally, his fastball is pretty straight. That thing, it was 98 miles an hour. It took a right turn. Look at that.
Yeah. I've heard that when you have a good arm, things like that happen unexpectedly.
We haven't seen that pitch before.
Nope. Elvis throws out Mauer, and that'll do it. So it turns into a pretty easy 1-2-3 inning for Matt Bush. Good job for the 30-year-old rookie. We're going to the 9th inning, tied at 2 in Minnesota. Thank you very much. Well, we head to the top of the 9th inning. Another pitching change for the Twins. Ranger fans looking for, well, they haven't gotten all the rally caps on yet. Just a few of them. Brandon Kintzler, 31-year-old right-hander from Las Vegas, Nevada, is on now to take over. He becomes the 4th pitcher employed tonight by Paul Molitor. Kintzler, originally a San Diego Padres property. He was drafted by the Padres the 40th round of the 2004 draft. Went on over and made his major league debut with Milwaukee in 2010. Pitched with the Brewers through last year. Now over here with the Minnesota Twins. Minor league free agent signee. Elvis Andrus takes a strike from Kintzler. Elvis has walked and scored. 0 for 2 other than that.
I was going to say, Buzz, we've seen some pretty good arms so far out of the Twins bullpen. Ryan Presley was 95 to 97. Taylor Rogers had the good breaking ball, but fastball 93 to 95. And now 94 95 with some sinking action from Brandon Kintzler. So 3 good arms coming out of the Twins bullpen.
The Twins have been stockpiling some good arms, some good young players too. I feel like they're headed in the right direction. It's just a matter of getting the right pieces at the right spot.
Oh, that is good sinking action at 96 miles an hour.
Kind of look that Elvis had on his face, like, well, a little more than what I expected.
Last 5 outs have been strikeouts. Watch the ball sink right at the end. Zach Britton's sinker.
Yeah. Speaking of sinkers,
there's another one out there.
Rangers have their own sinker ball specialist, Sam Dyson, getting ready in the Ranger bullpen. Here's Mitch Moreland, who singled his last time up. Dozier takes care of that topper, throws out his friend. 2 gone. Moreland grounds out. Now Robinson Chirinos will come up for his first at bat of the night.
Kinsler's only walked 2 guys in 22 innings. He's got pretty good command of that sinker as well.
Chirinos at 173 average, 4 home runs, 7 RBI. He's been bothered by a sore wrist, and it's got to think he hasn't said anything about it, but I got to think that's affecting his offensive output a bit. He's just 1 for his last 20. Took an 0 for 3 in yesterday's ball game, just 1 for 9 in the New York series. 2 balls, no strikes. Robinson back in, tapping the outside corner of the plate with that business end of his bat. 2-1. A little over 25,500 on hand here tonight. 25,530. It's Friday night of the 4th of July weekend. Long weekend, a 4-day weekend this year. Right center field, falling in a hurry, and that's going to be down in front of Max Kepler for a base hit. Now Robinson Chirinos a 2-out single here in the 9th inning. And it'll bring up the top of the order in Shin-Soo Choo.
He ran that fastball right in on the fists. This guy's got a pretty good arm to be signed as a minor league free agent.
You kind of wonder what the Brewers had going in front of him that was keeping him down.
Not a youngster anymore. He's
no.
In his early 30s, but still with that kind of movement and that kind of arm, man, you can't make a big league roster.
Shin-Soo Choo, a walk among his 4 plate appearances, 0 for 3 with a couple of strikeouts and a fielder's choice grounder. That's in at the knees. 0-2.
This is the kind of stuff that Sam Dyson has. Rangers got him in a key trade last year. But you don't expect, I wouldn't expect anyway, to get this kind of guy as a minor league free agent in the offseason.
Yeah.
Maybe this is the best he's ever been.
And we did have 1 year in 2014. He had 64 appearances for the Brewers. Worked 58 innings. 3-3 with a 3.24, so nothing remarkable. Chopper wide of first. Maurer will take it himself. Choo is out, so are the Rangers. No runs a hit, 1 left. We're going to the bottom of the 9th inning here in Minneapolis. The Twins coming up, tied with the Rangers at 2 apiece. as Matt Bush will work his second inning tonight. He will face Miguel Sano, Brian Dozier, and Trevor Plouffe here in the bottom of the 9th inning. So Matt, who had a very nice, quick 1-2-3 bottom of the 8th, will try and do the same thing and get this game into extra innings. Sano tonight is 0 for 2. He has walked, grounded into a double play, and struck out. Towering fly ball to deep center. Back is Desmond. Now he comes in a couple of steps. About a 395-foot fly ball that had plenty of hang time.
He just missed that thing. That thing might have gone over the black backdrop in center field if he centered that thing. He hit that cut fastball. Stayed inside in the middle of the plate. He had his pitch, had his swing. Unfortunately, he got underneath it. Matt was trying to throw that pitch away. Left it out over the plate and got away with it.
The one away. Here's Brian Dozier, who looks at strike one. Dozier is single in 3 trips. Matt Bush, now that his heart has gotten back to its normal rhythm, and go back to work, make your heart skip a few beats. Popped up by Dozier's back into the seats. No balls, 2 strikes. Dozier's leadoff single in the 7th preceded Trevor Plouffe's game-tying home run. It was off Martin Perez. Martin tonight, 7 innings. That's the 3rd time this year that he's worked 7 full innings. 5 hits, 2 runs. They were both earned. 3 walks, 4 strikeouts. Matt Bush trying to get out number 2 here in the 9th. Got him swinging. Good fastball, 97 with a little cut to it. Matt records his 2nd strikeout.
So he's throwing a 97 mile an hour fastball that cut a little bit right here. And then he's throwing a 98 mile an hour fastball that tailed a few inches in the last inning. That just must be buzzed the way it comes out of his hand.
Yeah.
That's not intentional. That's just his fastball, and that what happened to it, I guess.
I think so. You know, that one that tailed so much, it looked like almost like he threw a 2-seamer. I don't know that he doesn't.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure that he does either.
Well, the way it moved, it looked like it.
Yeah. He came with a slow breaking ball to Trevor Plouffe on the first pitch. Plouffe 2 for 3 tonight. 1 ball and 1 strike. Plouffe's 2-run home run in the 7th that tied this game. That was his 7th of the year. Now has driven in 27. His other hit, a leadoff infield single in the 5th. 2-1. Ranger outfield playing very deep with Plouffe. They want to try and keep that man off second base. The ball go over their heads. It was going to drop in, and there's one that will fall in for a single. Well, a 2-out base hit. That's Plouffe's 3rd base hit of the night. He is 3 for 4, and he is the winning run at first for Robbie Grossman. Chirinos out to talk with Matt Bush.
Not a bad pitch. Danny Santana's going to run for Plouffe at first base.
And Jeff Bannister, a quick jog out to the mound. Had a message he wanted to impart himself. He's talking about the situation and talking about what he expects of Matt Bush and Robinson Chirinos. Winning run at first, 2 outs. Robbie Grossman 1 for 3 tonight. He's a switch hitter, so he'll turn around to bat from the left side against the right-hander Matt Bush. Grossman single, came back in the 5th inning. That was against Martin Perez. A little bit outside for ball 1. Matt Bush has the ability, as you saw in that last pitch, to quicken up his delivery, to cut down his leg lift a little bit. So he's not the easiest guy to run on. Andy Santana has designs on stealing second. He's going to have to guess correctly.
Hey, you would think he would have the ability to hold runners, having been a shortstop before. You would think he would have the quickness and the ability to do that.
Fastball right down the middle. It's 1-1.
Grossman's been playing well for the Twins since he got called up toward the end of May. His on-base percentage is over 40%.
Average currently at 271. Bush back to him and missed a little bit outside. 2 balls and a strike. Matt Bush getting ready for his 25th pitch of his outing tonight. Popped up down the left side. Beltre, long run in foul ground. He can't get there.
Boy, he went a long way and almost got to that ball.
Sure did.
Way out in left field.
Well, we've seen Adrian turn it loose on this road trip for sure. It looks like that leg is no longer a concern for him, at least on a daily basis.
Now, there's been 5 or 6 times where he's gone all out to first base.
That's good news for Adrian and for the Rangers. Hope it stays that way. 2 balls and 2 strikes. And again, Santana drawing a throw from Matt Bush. Robbie Grossman, you remember from his days with the Astros, came up with them in 2013. Was with them until 2015. Matt Bush not going to be able to run for mayor of Minneapolis anytime soon.
Fans just don't like it when you try to pick off their players.
Sure don't. Now the Ranger right-hander is ready again. Broken bat ground ball to Odor. Up to first, and we are going to have some bonus baseball tonight. We're going to extra innings as Matt Bush keeps the Twins off the board. It is 2-2 on to the 10th. Extra innings are presented by Jack Link's Beef Jerky all season long. Jack Link's Beef Jerky, feed your wild side. A 2-2 game as Fernando Abad has come in to take over, and Ranger fans hoping for a 10th inning victory here tonight. Rangers trying to snap a mini 2-game losing streak. First time they'd lost consecutive games since that 3-game series loss to the Oakland A's back in mid-May. Fernando Abad, the 30-year-old left-hander out of La Romana in the Dominican Republic. He has worked in 32 games with tonight's outing for the Twins this year. 1-2 with a 2.42 ERA. And he will face Desmond Mazara and Beltre here in the 10th. Ian Desmond 2 for 4 tonight. Takes a strike. Desmond a single and a double. He's also had a couple of strikeouts. And Abad misses a bit low. It's 1-1. Ranger fans will remember Fernando Abad most recently as a member of the Oakland A's. He was with them for the last 2 years. Worked in a total of 131 games the last 2 seasons. That ball is ripped to right center field and deep up the alley, and goodbye! Ian Desmond, a line shot to right center field that carries out of here. His 15th home run of the year, and the Rangers lead it 3-2.
Well, we talked about Ian earlier. He's won the Rangers' most valuable player of the month 2 times in a row. He's making a down payment on the month of July. This is the 5th time he's hit a go-ahead home run in the 7th inning or later this year. So if you got a close game and you want to go ahead, put Ian Desmond up after the 7th inning. He gets the job done, boy. And he almost had another home run to right field earlier in the game. He had a high fly ball off the wall. That ball on the lower inside part of the plate, and launched that thing.
That ball was tattooed, and Desmond now tying Rougned Odor for the team leadership with 15 home runs.
We were talking about Ian coming into the game, Buzz. You said that he was in a huge slump at 0 for 9. That's a minor slump for everybody else. But the way he's been playing, 0 for 9 is a little bit of a slump. That's a thing of the past. He's got 3 hits, a home run, and a double in this game. Man, what a season he's having for the Rangers.
Yeah, so he goes from 0 for 9 coming into tonight, and now he is 3 for 12, 3 for 13, 3 for 14 in the last 4 ball games. That's how quickly that turns around for him. He doesn't get just 1 hit, though, to break an over. He just goes ahead and adds 3 or 4 on it. So a 3-2 Ranger lead. Nomar Mazara at the plate now. The count of 2 balls and 2 strikes. Mazara 1 for 4 this evening. A blooper ball that's hit to left center. Dropping in a hurry. Buxton with that great speed, able to close and make the catch.
I've seen that pitch before from him. Buxton could have gone 20 more feet if he had to catch that ball.
Fernando Abad coming up with a few new tricks. Didn't seem to bother Nomar
actually would have had a better chance to hit that ball if it was about a foot lower.
Now Beltre, first ball swinging. Shortstop Nunez up and throwing. There are 2 gone. Adrian with that ground out now, 1 for 5. Prince Fielder will follow. And Sam Dyson readying now to come in to close this game out. Sam, of course, had the blown save the other night on Wednesday night in New York. His first since being installed as the closer back on May the 18th.
Abad had only given up 1 home run in 26 innings coming into this game. Rangers have made a habit, it seems like, against pretty good relievers of
having the first home run or first base hit or things like that. First run scored. Prince chops it down foul. 1 ball and 1 strike.
We were talking before the game, looking out at right field and where guys were hitting balls, and remembering back to the ball that Josh Hamilton hit against Glenn Perkins, hit a 3-run homer to win a ball game here, to almost just a little bit to the right of center field into the upper deck in right center field.
Yeah, about the same line that Desmond's went on.
Yep. A little more of a line drive. Well, about the same kind of a line drive, just a little bit farther.
Two and 1 the count to Prince. 2-2. Fielder walked and scored in the 7th inning. He has an 0 for 3 this evening, currently hitting at .216. The Twins go back with 2 strikes on Prince. They go back to a regular alignment. They go from the overshift to.
It's funny, they go that way for Prince. They go the other way with 2 strikes for Choo.
Yep. Three and 2. The Fielder prolongs this 10th inning. Rougned Odor would get a shot at Fernando Abad. Rangers 3 runs on 8 hits now this evening. Here's that Eephus pitch outside. Ball 4. Prince takes his 2nd walk of the night.
That may not be the best pitch that Abad has, but he's tried it a couple of times. Got out with it, I guess. I guess I'll give him that.
He probably, the first time he threw it, he probably got a guy really looking silly on it and said, "Oh, that's a great pitch. I'm going to throw it all the time."
It doesn't really break that much. It's just kind of a little league changeup, it looks like, as opposed to the one Darvish throws that drops down about 2 feet.
Odor drives one to left center field and deep. Buxton is going back right in front of the Ranger bullpen, and he hauls it in as he crashes into the paddock. Odor hits that thing 410 feet, and Buxton runs it down right in front of the 411 marker. So, top of the 10th is over, but not before Ian Desmond gives the Rangers the lead with his 15th home run of the year. Sam Dyson coming on with the Rangers leading 3-2. Has given the Rangers a 3-2 lead here in the 10th inning. And Sam Dyson has come out of the Ranger bullpen to try and close it out. Dyson with 16 saves in 18 opportunities. 13 out of 14 since he was installed as a full-time closer. Had that one horrible outing for him on Wednesday night. Gave up 4 runs in just a third of an inning to get the blown save and the loss. And the Rangers in 1-run games this year, the highest winning percentage in the American League, 17-6, and trying to add on to that.
Yeah, the Rangers have an unusual record in 1-run games, how good it is.
Max Kepler softly serves it into left field for a leadoff single.
And then they have an unusual amount of walk-off losses. Ball had some good movement on it. It was up a little bit. Sam generally keeps that down a little bit lower, in which case it would have been a little tougher for Kepler to get the end of the bat on the ball, but up like that, he hit it softly into left field.
So the Twins get the tying run aboard with nobody out. Kurt Suzuki 0 for 3 tonight. He's going to bunt and bunts through it. I can't imagine Dyson's the easiest guy in the world to try and bunt against.
I think a guy with a good moving fastball can be a little bit tough to bunt. Suzuki had a little bit of a tough time bunting it back in the 5th inning.
Yes, he did.
Popped up a squeeze play for a double play.
Kepler, the runner at first, 0-1 the count to Suzuki. Again around to bunt, and bunts through it again. 0-2.
Generally, you make a little contact on the bunt, though. He fanned on both of them. It's not the best technique right there.
No.
When you kind of square around and jab at it, makes it a little bit tougher to get the bunt down.
I think Kurt might be out for a little extra bunting practice tomorrow.
Well, I saw the Twins out today doing pitchers fielding practice, so the chances are they will be.
Kepler with a leadoff base hit. Paul Molitor trying to figure out a way to get Kepler around to tie this game. The Rangers leading 3-2. Suzuki down on the count, no balls, 2 strikes. Got him swinging. There's that good sinker from Dyson for the strikeout, 1 away.
That will not go down as one of Kurt's best at bats. He's been a .367 hitter though in his last 21 games, so he's been hot. But that's a tough pitch right there. Look at that ball sink. That's Sam at his best. 97 miles an hour, down and sinking.
The time that ball got to Robinson Chirinos, it had no bottom to it because it all had fallen out.
The only chance you've got on that is take it. Hope they call it a ball.
Byron Buxton up there from the right side of the plate now. Big swing and a miss. Buxton 1 for 3 tonight. Had a single in the 6th inning. Ranger infield in at double play depth up the middle. 0-2. Well, for Byron Buxton, this is not a great matchup because Dyson has that sinker, which is tough on anybody, and Buxton prolific strikeout right now. Sure, he'd rather face somebody that threw the ball relatively straight.
Just keep it down and don't throw a strike to him right here.
The 0-2 coming. Call strike 3.
Or throw that kind of a strike.
Yeah, 96 on the outside corner.
He just doesn't listen to me when I tell him not to throw a strike.
Well, you're thinking about hittable strikes. Those aren't hittable.
Well, that's a good point. I think if he brought that ball a little bit, like he threw the one that he threw to Suzuki, Buxton would have swung at it.
Well, 2 outs now. The tying run still at first. Back to the top of the order, Eduardo Nunez. Nunez 0 for 4 with 2 strikeouts this evening. Dyson's first pitch to him. Ground ball out to Odor. Rugden up, throwing, and that is a winner. Sam Dyson gives up a leadoff single, then gets 2 strikeouts and a ground ball, and the Rangers have made the 2-game losing streak a thing of the past as they win their 52nd game of the year. 3-2 final in 10 innings tonight against a pesky Twins team that just would not go away. They came back and tied it up after the Rangers had taken the lead. But the Rangers then got things done in the 10th, courtesy of Ian Desmond, with a long home run to right center field to give them the lead, and Sam Dyson closed it out in good fashion. So Matt Bush gets the win here tonight in relief. Sam Dyson with his 17th save of the year.